Take a look at the shoes you're wearing. Now take a look at any articles of clothing you're wearing. When you go home, look in your closet. Check your shoes. Check the clothes. And think to yourself if one brand sticks out from the rest. Now, although clothing is subjective, more than likely, if you're an athlete or any sort of that type of thing, that swoosh is going to be that ever so prominent. But how did that swoosh get in your closet? Why is it that Nike has amassed such an empire like it has today? And almost everyone in every single country has either heard of or seen it before. And why do people know Nike more than historical figures such as Jesus Christ or William Shakespeare even? How? That's through visionaries. Visionaries are why our market economy is where it is today. Without Phil Knight, who created Nike, you wouldn't be able to run in rugged terrain like you could today, or you wouldn't be able to wear articles of clothing like Mr. Candace Tracy is wearing comfortably and casually. So how did Nike get to the point where it is today? In this, we'll discuss the brief history, rise of Nike, and the globalization of Nike on other countries. Nike started as a vision in the late 1950s between, at the time, track and field student at the University of Oregon, Phil Knight, and the head track and field coach, Bill Bowerman. Bowerman wanted to have his athletes have a competitive advantage in training and meets by giving them shoes that were lighter and faster on and easier to run on for his students and athletes. So upon graduation, Knight and Bowerman decided to embark upon a $500 trust and start Blue Ribbon Sports, which is a shoe distribution company. Originally, Blue Ribbon Sports did not produce shoes or manufacture them. They were shoe distributors. They distributed shoes through Japanese manufacturers, but however, all good things must come to an end, and eventually there was a fallout between Bowerman and Knight and the Japanese shoe manufacturers. So they set up their own individual factories in the late 60s and domestically. Now, they wanted to provide shoes, and from there, the iconic Nike logo and the swoosh, this Nike logo and the brand was created. Nike was from the mythical god, a Greek god, Nike, which meant victory. And that's how they wanted to signify athletes who wore this clothing would compete and seize the day, I guess you could say. Now, how did Nike rise and become where it was and how it is today? Simple. They did something that no other company had done before in the time. They endorsed and sponsored athletes. Olympic athlete Steve Prefontaine was the very first athlete to be sponsored by Nike. Now, everyone saw him on TV or radio and heard about how fast he ran in Olympic trials and meets. And people were mesmerized to see how he could run so fast. And when they discovered that he was endorsing these shoes, Nike shoes, everyone headed to the nearest department stores and closest mall areas to grab a pair of the Nikes. And however, Nike's biggest explosion came in 1985 when they endorsed and started a new line of clothing called Jordan Brand and sponsored future Hall of Famer from the University of North Carolina, Michael Jordan. Sorry about that. This is Bill Bowerman and Steve Knight. From that, Jordan Brand became not just a clothing apparel and clothing footwear, it became a lifestyle. Jordan became synonymous with many industries, including music and movies, and people all over the internet and world advertise the shoes. And from there, a brand recognition for Nike and Jordan exploded. Today, Nike is quick to sponsor and endorse any athlete who can have potential in becoming at the top of their sport, in their sport. So, Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, is one of the best soccer players in the world, or Lionel Messi even. And for basketball, we have LeBron James with the ever so prominent logo. Now, how did Nike globalize like it has today? Well, many would argue that it was because of the introduction of the World Wide Web and new market technology for television in the late 1990s and the early 21st century. Today, Nike controls almost all the shares and clothing distribution and manufacturing, as you can see in this chart. well above the next biggest competitor, Reebok or Adidas or any other kind of brand. Now, how could they do that? Well, not just, they outsource their labor to different countries of the world, including Vietnam and Thailand, and that were low-cost producers of their shoes and clothing, and sold them on the domestic market and world market for a cheaper price. Also, with the introduction of the new technology and marketing strategies, they were able to produce commercials in almost any language there is, and they market to any TV audience from toddlers to adults. And today, Nike has the most stock and shares in the clothing distribution. In conclusion, we've discussed the brief history, rise, and globalization of Nike. However, if it weren't for Phil Knight's vision in the late 1950s, we wouldn't be able to wear what we're wearing today. And that's what I want to leave you with. Entrepreneurship is vital for our economy. Supporting small businesses, because Nike, although it's an empire like it is today, once start off as a vision. And if you have a vision and a goal, you should chase it, because you never know, you could produce something like this and control most of the market economy. So, that's what I want to leave you with. Thank you.